What up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Jam Report. I'm your host, Pablo, and joining me, as always, is Mr. Brian Schultz. Brian, a lot of news regarding the Fantastic Four. But before we get to that, damn, you called Indiana in 6.
I'm counting my ducats after yesterday, even as a Knicks fan. I said to people who weren't clear for the last time, I am a diehard Knicks fan. I am a native New Yorker, but I try to be objective about my team. And I didn't feel it for this series for exactly the reasons we kind of wound up seeing. And game 6 was just that microcosm. They just couldn't hold down the Indiana shooting, and Brunson just didn't have, they needed a 40-point from him, and he just didn't have it in this one.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, a good season, but a missed opportunity. This is, with Tatum's injury and the Cavs getting knocked out, you kind of like, this would have been one of their better chances to get to the finals. I don't think they could have done anything against the Thunder. I don't think anyone's doing anything against the Thunder this year, but just to be in the finals would have been nice. So anyway, no.
I mean, Tatum's going to be out next season, so they still have a chance.
It's
they just have to face
them,
other people.
Yeah, I mean, unless Giannis moves to like the Pacers or the Pistons or somebody in the East, it's probably Indiana, the Knicks, and the Cavs again. Like, I don't really know I don't think the Sixers are coming back. I don't think, the Bucks are toast. Like, the Pistons are on the rise, but they're not ready to be a, 58 win team next year. So yeah, no, you're right. They'll still be there, but
Fantastic Four. We had a lot of news come out lately about end credit scenes. We got the reveal of Galactus, which I already knew, they were going to do the right thing by him. There has been some news about some test screenings, some statements about silliness of the Fantastic Four. Was it made by Kevin?
Yes, and it's when you hear the full context of it, it's not silly or goofy necessarily in the sense that you and I have typically worried about, but we'll get into it. But yes, Kevin Feige said that word. Yeah.
So let's get into it. Fantastic Four, man. It's crazy. I had a gig yesterday, and I was driving out to Connecticut, and I was listening to John Campea about how important Fantastic Four is to the rest of the MCU, because again, this leads up to Doomsday, and obviously Doomsday has to perform and has to get the excitement up for people to really go out, and hopefully for Marvel and the MCU and Kevin, that this is successful. What that means in terms of success, obviously, we believe $2 billion is what a headline came out that $2 billion would be the number that they'd have to reach in order to be, come out even in terms of money. That, $2 billion, $2 billion. Who makes an investment to come out even? You know what I'm saying? To break even. Who does that? So what are the latest, Brian, in terms of Fantastic Four news, test screenings? What have they been saying about the test screenings? And what was said about the end credit scene for this movie?
Yeah, let's start with the test screenings, because test screenings have become a thing, right? I mean, I think we're seeing more and more.
It's crazy.
I think, and again, you have to take all this with a grain of salt. I think with Superman, what you're looking for is like little nuggets within the overall tone that you think are kind of more real or more interesting. And, like in the case of Superman, we talked about how polarizing that character is, and you kind of saw like polarized reactions to screenings, but then you also saw James Gunn screen that movie, and we'll talk about it in our Superman show a lot. Like, he screened different versions of it. And so you were getting these reactions to like version 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. And now we're kind of like supposedly at all right, he's done with the movie. But the movie that's getting locked sounds pretty different than the movie that he first screened, right? So this is why you can't look at that first reaction and be like, oh God, like this is what it is. So with Marvel, what's interesting is they don't always screen the movie. So this is where it gets a little, they've started doing it a little more as the response to the movies has become weaker. So Brave New World became this exercise and like, we can't get this movie right, so we got to keep showing it because we'll keep reshooting it. That was not the norm. Like, think about through history, like how many times do you hear word about an Avengers screening? You didn't, because they didn't do it, right? So the fact that they're doing it for these movies, I think it suggests like they're trying to get a regrip on what the audience really wants to see and what they're responding to. What I find interesting is that they didn't do that with Fantastic Four until less than 2 months before the movie comes out. Because it sort of says there's not a lot of time to pivot in a meaningful way, but depending on the response. And for what it's worth, the response is not great. The overriding themes were, quote, not that bad, but not that good either. Or, quote, painfully mid. Those are the themes that are coming out from this. Now, what I find maybe more notable is they're saying that most of the VFX is not finished.
Okay.
They got 2 months. Like, this is where we run into the Marvel complaint of like the VFX houses are like, they expect the world, don't give us the time, don't give us the pay. It feels like they might be up against it again with this one if they literally are showing people an unfinished version of the movie from a special effects perspective. What seemed to get in an encouraging bucket, what seemed to get a consensus positive response is Galactus. Apparently Galactus was highlighted as both the visualization. So there, even though the effects might be not 100% done, the visualization of the character and Ralph Ineson's portrayal of the character apparently is very crowd pleasing. And people really enjoyed that. So that's a big plus one, literally, for the movie. But the overriding theme was the reactions to this movie are, quote, consistently okay. Whereas with Superman, the reactions swung, as we talked about, between really loved to really didn't like. So does it mean it's the end of the world? No. But it's a little interesting to me that, like, again, you have an unfinished movie and there wasn't really a single reaction where people were like, oh my God, this changed the game.
If it's same old, and just little things here and there, look at Thunderbolts, man. Even before Thunderbolts came out, the excitement and the word of mouth of how good this movie is didn't really show or reflect in the box office.
And those screenings went well. Like that was one where we heard good screening.
We were talking about that. Yeah, we were talking about that leading up even months before it came out, that the test screenings were good. The test screenings were good. And yet people didn't show up. Does it say what I've been saying about people just being tired of Marvel? Of the MCU? Granted, yes. Deadpool Wolverine made $1 billion, right? But that's not a real MCU movie like we've seen before. That's a different type of movie. And again, Guardians of the Galaxy, almost around 800, that's classic MCU right there, though. It wasn't done by people who don't really read the comics and want to do their own thing and create this own world or different type of character from comic books that those people perhaps didn't even read or not really into.
Well, you're talking about established brand versus new brand, right? So established brand is No Way Home. Established brand is Guardians 3. Those Deadpool and Wolverine, two established brands, right? Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman. Those, the audience still feels like Linus's blanket, right? I know what I'm getting. I feel safe. I know my money is going to be well spent here. I'm going to be entertained. So they're more than willing to come out for that. Thunderbolts was weird because it kind of was like using old characters, like familiar brand characters, but trying to create new brand. The movie itself is successful, but the new brand part didn't work. Whatever else you want to say. And that follows on, if we look at, Eternals, if we look at Shang-Chi, if we look at things where they've attempted to move in other directions, that just hasn't really gone that well. And I should say established brand. Let's also not forget Multiverse of Madness. That's established brand, almost got to $1 billion. Again, we're not talking about movie quality. We're just talking about what gets people to go. So Fantastic Four is tricky because that is very new brand, right? It looks different. You're wanting to take the MCU in a different direction. But the one thing you're fighting that's not new, as we talked about many times, is the failure of the Fantastic Four at the movies over the last 20 years, which isn't the fault of anyone making this particular movie, but we've seen before where that can be a problem. And I just wonder if these reactions are in any way accurate and it's kind of like a 3-star type of movie, whether this will fall victim to that same kind of, I've been here before, I've been unimpressed before, and yes, this looks different, but I don't feel any different.
And that's coming off the statements Marvel has made about this movie, where it's set. This is a world where no other heroes exist. This is just a Fantastic Four. This is supposed to be different. But if we go in there feeling that they're still playing the same hits, just remix type joint, then it doesn't bode well for their future plans for whatever it is that they're trying to do. Especially Doomsday, Secret Wars. Those gotta bring in people. And that, and what we've spoken about is that the end credit scene for Fantastic Four has to sort of get us excited for what's coming up next. The same way, even though when Thanos showed his face, we were far from Endgame. But yet the excitement that they built between Endgame and that first showing of Thanos was an amazing ride. It's disappointing to hear that the test screenings and the statements people are making about Fantastic Four aren't what we'd hope for. I think there was one statement about they really didn't do a good job of showing Reed's powers, right? Which I said before.
We've talked about that.
Yeah, we said before, it's like
gone badly before. Yeah.
They can't do anything that we haven't seen before. You know? That's why if James Gunn was ever thinking about doing Plastic Man, the effects won't, you'd have to show us something, you know, it's how he uses his powers is what I guess gets us interested, not the way it looks, because the way it looks is he stretches. I say, well, how cool can you make that? You can't. I don't think, at least.
I was gonna say, even on the trailer though, to that point about seeing stuff we've seen before. Remember, one of the things that came back on the trailer feedback was just that the mere presence of the Silver Surfer turned some people off simply because they said, haven't we seen a surfer before? Right. So they're hearkening back to the Lawrence Fishburne movie from almost 20 years ago, which, by the way, they still run those on TV a lot. So people are kind of like, and this, when we originally talked about the inclusion of these characters, this was one of the risks, was that like you were starting to skew closer to a story that admittedly wasn't done very well, but had been attempted before. And so this is like new brand, old brand. Like what you don't want is people being like, okay, that just looks like a female version of the bad surfer experience I had with the other movie. And, you know, obviously Galactus, it's a little easier to differentiate from a Cloud, but still it just, it does make me nervous. Like I said, I find it just so weird that you would just throw a screening up 2 months before. That's the thing that blows my mind. I'm like, what are you going to do? Like, so if they don't like the movie, you can't reshoot it. You can't delay it. So that's great. You have this feedback to do what with? Like, that's what I don't understand. At least with Brave New World, for better or for worse, they got that feedback so early they could reshoot the movie 2 or 3 times. Didn't really work out for them, but like, you know, I understood the timeline.
We got to discuss later about Bob Iger's disappointment in terms of what's coming out for 2026. There's some headlines about him being not happy with the lineup. When I was driving to Connecticut, Ralph Ineson, he made some statements about what Galactus is, which I was like, okay, this dude did his homework. He's not evil.
Oh
He
yes,
just
you're
do
right.
what he
Great
do.
call.
He just does what he does. And I was like, okay, we're on the right track. He was invited to a wedding and it was on a rooftop, and this dude was standing on the roof just staring and trying to get into character. And then his wife said, like, hey, we got a wedding to be here. And he was like there for like 20, 30 minutes. Just, that's what I'm talking about. We're going to like Galactus. I have no worry about what Galactus is. I mean, the words used is terrifying. What do you expect? That's the word you need. Galactus, that dude is terrifying because no matter what you do, he's there to do what he do. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting to me has always been what is going to happen, or what is going to be said to distract Galactus and have him pause to really listen to whatever it is that you have to say. That for me is interesting. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. The Fantastic Four, again, like you said, they're playing. They play the movie on TV sometimes, and when I see Johnny going after Silver Surfer up in space, that's just a remake of what they did last time, yo. It's like, yo, I'm telling you, man, if I was an exec there, I'd be going crazy and telling people, yo, what are we doing here? How different is this from what they've already done? We got to be different. And the fact that people are coming out not really being too impressed, which was my initial curiosity and interest in this, is what would this look like in the hands of Marvel?
I'm encouraged by some of the casting. I think what I'm seeing the Thing doing is better than what I've seen the Thing do before, if I'm being honest. Like, at least my conception of the Thing, right? Like, there's like Ben Grimm being able to connect with the kids as like a celebrity, and then the physicality of like him running through the building, knocking it down. Like, I think they're doing a better job, like, with that sort of stuff. I also obviously think they have a much better Sue Storm than we've ever had. And I don't know how the exact quote, but there was a quote, I believe, from Kevin, where he basically said she's the lead. They basically were like, we wanted Vanessa Kirby first, and we built the family around her, which I think, in my mind, she's always been the best casting of this lot. And I thought it was interesting they admitted that she was kind of like the fulcrum to this whole operation. So it kind of, in my mind, is starting to beg the question of, let's say the movie itself is as the reactions describe. It is mid. It is not bad. It is not great. It's like 60% Rotten Tomatoes. It's like, Metacritic, it's like 50, whatever. And like, but let's say the family is good, and let's say Galactus is good. That doesn't strike me as a loss necessarily. That strikes me as like, if the family itself is good, you can carry that forward. If Galactus is really good, you can certainly carry him forward. Is that enough in your mind to call that like a winning Fantastic Four experience, if that's all we get? If the movie itself is forgettable, but the family is good and Galactus is good?
I just say it has to be better than what we've seen before. If I go into, because listen, when I go watch the Fantastic Four cartoons, I watch it for other people. I don't watch it for them. You know, it has always been like that. So I don't, if this group is better than what we've seen in the past, I think I'll be not happy, but satisfied in that attempt and that result. So,
because the key is like, you have to want to see them again, right? At the end of the day, like, what's the number one thing this movie has to accomplish? You have to want to see the main characters again.
Me personally, I want to see Pedro Pascal's portrayal of Reed in this movie. I just want to see how all of them do. I think we'll get a better showing than what we've had in the past, and I think that'll be enough. Especially with Galactus. Listen, and at the end of this, if Galactus is one and done,
And if it's good, that's criminal.
Yeah. It's like you tap out after that. You like, I don't care what you guys do now. But going a little bit further back to what you said in the beginning about the MCU's the functioning of how they do these movies and how they put it out. In the beginning, they didn't have to show it to anybody because they know they were doing something different. They were telling stories, and there was a little bit of more focus. Now it's just all over the place.
Well, that's also why Thunderbolts is concerning, because Thunderbolts is a good movie. It is a different movie. It is a movie where they seemingly left the director largely to his own devices. And as a result, it's a cohesive movie. But it's not a blockbuster movie. It's not. I mean, it's going to be one of the lowest grossing movies they've produced. It's going to be down. I mean, it's going to be a little better than the Marvels, but not much. So the message they will receive from that movie is kind of that attempt, that methodology didn't work commercially. That's the problem. It's like, that's why I rooted for that movie when I saw it, because like, I really hope this movie does well, because it'll encourage them to maybe go a little bit more in directions like that. But for it to be as unsuccessful as it has been, validating my idea that it should have been a TV show, would suggest they're going to lean more into the other stuff, which is, we got to pack more in. We got to, like, when we get to our Doomsday updates, I'm like, and you're talking about the box office. I'm like, is this movie going to be 8 hours long? Because like every rumor I hear about who's making it into this movie or who's got to see, I'm like, there's no room for this. This is just like, yeah, you're just, it's a circus. It's like you're just building tents at the circus, trying to get people to come because you want them to see like 5 seconds of something. Like, that's not the answer, but they seem to think it might be.
They said that visually, with all these characters and their power sets, it's supposed to look different than anything that they've ever done and what's ever been done in terms of effects. So whatever that means, let's see what that looks like.
And this movie has to look good. And I will say everything we've seen so far did look good. I mean, the motif has looked good. But if they're going to rush the effects and we're going to get there and be like, man, the surfer looks cheap. Like, man, like Johnny looks cheap. Like, that's a huge negative for this movie.
Have people said Johnny looks cheap?
But no, I'm just saying, like, they're saying it's unfinished action VFX, right? We've seen the trailer for VFX, which is finished, but if the broader VFX is not finished yet, I'm just saying that people go to see this, on 70 millimeter screens, and they're like, man, it just looks like a video game. Like, that's not good.
I'll tell you right now, the Silver Surfer doesn't look impressive.
I don't think so either. It looks the same. I mean, the tech looks pretty much the same as 20 years ago. Just it's a female instead of a male. And I've already said I didn't like her voice, which sounded like a normal person speaking. And I'm like, I just don't believe that Shia LaBeouf and Norman Rad would sound like a normal human if they showed up.
Like, who gives a damn? I'm sorry. Who gives a damn about Shia LaBeouf? Really? Who cares? You're using the name Silver Surfer, and Silver Surfer is Norman Rad.
Well, we know why, right? I mean, we know why. You know why, and we know why. But I agree. This has been our thing from the beginning. It'll be ironic, though, if we get to this being concerned about Galactus and Surfer showing up in this movie, and Galactus winds up being the best part of the movie. That'll be ironic, but I don't know.
I expect it to be, because Galactus is again. I never expected the Fantastic Four themselves to outshine Galactus. I've always expected Fantastic Four to be a little better than what we've seen before, a little bit more accurate. And I think we'll get some of that. But again, going back to my statement, when I've watched the cartoons, Fantastic Four is not really, you know what I'm saying? I'm more looking forward to seeing who's going to be in it, what Reed is going to say, little things like that, the relationship between Johnny and all that. So,
well, that's the key. That's why, like, I understand what you're saying about like when you watch the cartoons, a lot of times you watch it for the other characters. But in this particular case, I really am fixated on the family because I know that going forward, they want them to be a linchpin of the future MCU. And so, like, the family has to work, and it's something that has really been a problem for the prior iterations. I never bought into either family that was put on screen, younger or older. And so that's, something I am fixated on for this movie. But I want to give you one more quote from Innocent. So to what you were saying, where he talked about feeling Galactus. And he says he was driving through the tunnels of Mont Blanc in Europe, imagining that as his, Galactus's windpipe and his trachea. What a great quote, man. I love when an actor is just like,
he's in it.
So immersed
I hope. See, like, one of my top
Send
five
this-
questions would be,
Yeah.
huh?
Go ahead. I'll say it. Go ahead.
One of my top 5 questions for him: did you see the first episode of Silver Surfer? Because if you see the first episode of Silver Surfer, you get where he's coming from, because it exudes everything Galactus is in terms of voice, in terms of how unimportant anyone else is, unless you say something like, interesting. What else do you have to say? If anybody out there has not watched Silver Surfer, the first episode, it's on Disney Plus, guys. Watch the first episode. I'm not asking you to watch the whole season. Watch the first episode of the Silver Surfer, and you'll see similarities to what I think Ralph Ineson is trying to portray in Galactus, man. That's how you do it, yo. That's if I was having a conversation, I'll be smiling all the way through with listening to him in terms of how he's prepared himself to play Galactus.
Well, you just love it because it's process, and it is trying to connect with something that on the surface seems impossible to connect to, right? A planet-sized purple dude, like walking around, right? Just like you look at that on the surface, you're like, how can I as a human being find a way in? That makes that more than Godzilla, right? And so for him to talk about this and then say, yeah, he's not evil. And he's like, he's clearly trying to find like the sensory of it, right? I'm trying to feel what a voice like that would be like what a posture or a gait would look like. That's, see, that's the kind of stuff I read that. And then I read what Anthony Ramos says about the hood. And I'm kind of like, come on, man. Like, why, how there is a right way. I'm sorry. I know that this is not method acting, right? This is just sort of preparation to kind of be in the headspace to play this very difficult character to pull off believably on the big screen. But it's doing the research. That's all we're asking. Just read the material.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to do everything in the material. Read the material so you understand it.
Exactly, man. I'm not looking forward to that Ironheart show, but
we'll talk about it.
Not to say that I'm looking forward to it.
I don't think we'll have much to talk about. Maybe we do 2 installments, 1 installment, but
I'll wait for the entire season to be over and then we'll talk about it.
Post-credit scene. A report that it effectively is sort of Sue Storm sitting with Franklin. So implying that Galactus does not succeed in making off with Franklin, if in fact Franklin is his MacGuffin and his curiosity. But that Sue Storm leaves the room momentarily, and that when she comes back, Doom is sitting next to Franklin. And that is sort of you don't see Downey's face, but I guess he's got like his mask in his hand or something. And I don't know, it's sort of an entry point to let people know Doom has arrived in some capacity. So a purposeful scene, but how do you feel about, if that's true, how do you feel about that as sort of just conceptually a way to start to tease Doom's arrival?
It's no different to me than, okay, here's the thing. Here's the difference between the Thanos and the Doom and this possible Doom introduction. When we saw Thanos, we saw what the possibility was in terms of the story that they were going to tell. Especially when I saw Thanos, I was like, oh snap! I don't think are they really gonna do Infinity Gauntlet? And they did that. With Doom, I have no idea what he's going after and what he's trying to accomplish. Obviously, this is some multiverse saga sort of thing. And so we still don't know what this is all about and how this ends. If you think about all the post-credit scenes and all this other stuff that don't connect, and we don't know what we're getting. So the introduction of Doom is whatever. We know that it's Robert Downey Jr. And every time I see that introduction, the only person that can play, come on, man. Come on. So it's whatever. Until I see this movie, Brian, I have no hopes. I have none. Just disappointment in that it was Robert Downey Jr. was the only guy that could play Doom. I did hear some interesting theories. In Endgame, when Tony meets his father, Howard Stark says that they're expecting. So the theory people are sort of talking about is that what if who they were expecting wasn't Robert Downey Jr., wasn't him. It wasn't supposedly it wasn't Tony that was born, and something happened to the baby, whatever, passed away, whatever, and that they adopted him. He was actually born Victor Von Doom and not Tony Stark. Those little things, let's see how they pull it off, because it got to make sense, yo. It got to make sense.
I don't think it matters. So like, like to me, it's like
I'm still not interested in him tricking people and him playing Tony Stark again. I'm not interested in that. Yeah. If we get a lot of that, I'm there just waiting for it to be over.
Look, there's always been this truck-sized kind of get out of jail free card with a lot of this, because we never actually saw Chris Evans put every one of the stones back to their exact moment in time, right? That's just been sitting there since 2019. And you could always easily retcon like, well, he got these back in place perfectly, so that part of the timeline was unchanged, but then he screwed up. So it could be just, hey, he didn't get that stone. Remember, they took the Tesseract from 1970, right? So it's like, he didn't get it back exactly in the way that he left it, and that caused like a little ripple in the timeline, and therefore, yes, like this one thing changed. Like, everything else looks the same, so we didn't notice it up until now, but this one thing's been percolating the whole time, and like there's always been that they have that anytime they want to use it. But to me, that's like you're missing the forest through the trees. The forest is, why is Robert Downey Jr. playing Doom? I know why he's really doing it. We all know why he's really doing it.
More money, more money, more money.
But it doesn't change the fact that I see more pitfalls here than upside. And I haven't heard anything out of Downey himself to indicate that he understands that. I haven't heard or seen any sign that this is going to be Robert Downey from the Chaplin era leaning into something we haven't seen before. Everything I hear is just come riff on Tony Stark. And then, throw some pepper on it, throw some hot sauce on it, and try to make it a little more spicy, and therefore it becomes a villain. And I just have zero interest or time for that. And if that becomes apparent in like the first couple scenes he does in the movie, I'll be watching the Naked Gun trailer for the next week. That's what I'm
Oh man, I can't wait for that movie to come out.
But anyway, that's the thing, right? That's the thing. And then when we get to our full Doomsday segment, I don't see the formula for this movie to accomplish what it's supposed to accomplish. That's the other thing. Even if Downey was going to surprise us with a vintage, I've still got it performance, there's so much else going on that they're trying to get into this movie. It's going to cloud that.
Given that whole chair scenario, the reveals, and then the stuff that they revealed on the side about other people joining. It's if you think about how many people are in this movie, how many characters are supposed to show up. There's gonna be a lot of characters that are just standing there doing their thing, and it's gonna be forgettable, yo. It's gonna be forgettable. And the fact that this dude is writing Doom's, I cringe. I cringe because all I remember is Dr. Doolittle. So it's like, I don't know, Brian. This is going to be interesting to watch. People are going to go see what this is. But here's the thing that worries me is that so many people are going to come out that if they don't, people are going to come out to see what this is. Even if the word of mouth is this movie was bad, Robert Downey Jr., people are going to go see the performance. They're going to see what this is because they've hyped it up so much. People got to go see it. Whether it's a train wreck or it's a masterpiece. People are going to go see it.
Well, remember, reviews for Deadpool and Wolverine were pretty average. But Hugh Jackman, Ryan Reynolds doing their thing on screen for the first time. Record-setting box office. Like, the movie, I think, for audiences then turned out to be probably better than critics thought. Therefore, there was repeat business. So that's how they broke the record, if we're being honest. I have no questions the opening weekend for Doomsday is going to be amazing. But if it is a train wreck, it will start to look a lot like Batman versus Superman, where the fall off will be dramatic, in my opinion. Because for a movie that's going to be 3 hours long, if it's not good and it's messy and it's not enjoyable and it's not compelling, people are not coming back. There'll be other stuff to see. Like, it's Christmas, right? They're now releasing this at Christmas. You got to take time out of your holiday to go see this movie. You're going to do that twice? You're going to do that 4 times? If it's bad? If it's a mess? Probably not.
What was the original date? July, right?
Yeah. Well, I had an updated thought on that, actually. But now it's December. So Christmas 2026.
Do you think that was the right move?
So I had a conspiracy theory thought about this the other day, which was that Marvel's projects have, the stuff that was slated to be between now and Doomsday, they did not want bad momentum. So like Thunderbolts, however you want to call it, is bad momentum, right? It's poor box office. Slotting this movie a few months behind a new Spider-Man movie kind of ensures good momentum. That was one thought I had of like, did they move this order because they wanted the known guaranteed box office of Spider-Man to tee up a better box office for this? It's a thought. Yeah, because originally it would have been Fantastic Four, Blade, like something would have been in February, and then Doomsday would have been in May.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they're like taking a break of like a year, bringing Spider-Man back fresh off its $2 billion outing, and then leading into Doomsday. When I thought about it, I was like, that feels a little bit like a commercial strategy to me to try to make sure this movie doesn't fail.
Make sure that this movie doesn't fail. We'll see about that. Anything else, Brian?
Yeah, the silly. So just before we leave this, Kevin Feige just talking about this. Let me just leave it on a thematic note. This is Kevin talking about the Fantastic Four and how he's conceptualized it. Quote, I think there are no 4 characters more important to the history of Marvel. When Disney bought Fox, it was really an unexpected dream come true, and it came at a perfect time to help us launch into a new era. They are Marvel's first family. I really wanted to do them justice. And he said one big change is that previous films feared about being too silly, his quote. Whereas this one embraces the silly with the 1960s retro future aesthetic and how we've rendered Galactus. Quote, in another time, some might consider the notion of somebody with a big angular helmet walking through the city to be goofy. I consider it awesome, end quote. So I don't think he means silly, goofy in the sense that we've typically talked about it. I simply think he's saying we went for the more comics accurate version of this and we weren't afraid to put that on screen.
One of the biggest failures in movie history with regards to superhero comic books, movies, is making Galactus a freaking cloud.
Yes.
Making him a cloud, Galactus, is the biggest failure and disrespect of the character that has ever been done on screen. I'm sorry. For those people who made that decision,
Shame on them.
I have to look for it.
It was, yeah. He like, you know? Exactly. He starts like going on like a rant. Yeah, absolutely. He goes on some epic rants in that movie. Yeah, 100%. Are you? What did you say to the one guy? He's like, do you like? What do you say? Do you like music? He's like, you're the Rocket Man.
I don't listen to soft shit.
Tony Jaa. That movie is great. I'm sorry. This is why that movie is why. Like, I don't care what people say about Michael Bay. There's certain things that guy does that I'm just like, he knows how to entertain.
The Rock was dope.
I'm sorry.
The Rock was dope.
I keep waiting for the sequel because now the Alcatraz has actually, they're trying to reopen it for real. I'm waiting for the sequel. Oh man.
Yeah, that movie was great. So every time it's on, I flip to it.
But you're right. That is one of the production meetings I want to go back to in the time machine. The 20th Century Fox meeting where they conceptualize
risk your
Galactus
job of speaking out.
Yeah, and they're like, this is it. Like, we got it. Cloud. Like, storyboard this. And nobody in the room is like throwing their body in front of that.
I would have definitely got fired on that day. Would have definitely gotten fired on that day. Oh, man. But yeah, let us know in the conversation below what you guys think of. Yeah.
I mean, this is the end of blockbuster summer. This is the last movie in the blockbuster summer. People are going to be tired. I'm telling you. People like the Superman's 2 weeks earlier. Jurassic is 3 weeks earlier. F1 is 4 weeks earlier. And there's going to be other stuff along the way, like 28 Days Later and like, How to Train Your Dragon. Like, there's a lot. And this is the last movie in that sequence.
Let me ask you this.
It has to be
good. F1 does more money than Fantastic Four.
No, I don't think so. And don't get me wrong, I have F1. That was my number 2 movie for this year. And when I saw the trailer in front of Mission Impossible on IMAX, and like you just get that feel. And I like Formula One. Like, I'm a fan of Formula One, but like that feel of the cars moving the way they're shooting it on that size screen. Like, I don't know how you could not go to IMAX if it's near you to see it. But that being said, I don't know that domestically it connects with a broad enough audience to overtake a Marvel movie. Globally, I think you might have an interesting question because globally the sport is so big that you might get. And the fact that they got the actual crews and the actual drivers in this movie, I think you might have a shot between those two movies. But I don't know that overall I would say that. No, I think plus about placement and timing, F1 is 1 week before Jurassic and 2 weeks before Superman. So I'm just like, it's hard.
I think F1, if it has good reviews, I think it'll do very well. I think it might even overtake Fantastic Four. And to hear Brad Pitt, talk about, I want this. He was actually driving those cars just to prepare for this movie so that he can feel. That's what I'm talking about, yo.
Well, they did this. I mean, they did this with the sanctioning of Formula One. Like Lewis Hamilton's one of the producers. Like, this is not driven, from 20 years ago with Sly Stallone. where they're just like calling it F1 and then doing whatever they want with it. Like they actually had the cooperation of the governing body to go build a real movie and get in the cars and go to the tracks and go to the paddocks. And so this should be as close as you can get to being a part of that sport, which is, you know, like I said, it is a global phenomenon, but it also was super expensive. Like this is another one of those where Apple shelled out like $350 million. And it looks like in the trailers, it looks super expensive. But again, you're like, okay, so now you got to do 750, you got to do 800. Like it's a lot. I mean, like I said, all these movies we're talking about in that stretch all need to do 700, 800, $1 billion to be considered successes. There's almost no way that you're going to get $4 billion movies in 4 weeks. I don't think that's ever happened. So
interesting.
The kids are out though. See, I think this is a +1 for Superman. Oh yeah. Minecraft got the kids out. Lilo and Stitch definitely got the kids out. I think Dragon's going to get the kids out in June. The kids want to go to the movies, and if the kids want to go to the movies, like that's why I don't know. We might be giving Crypto a doggy bone and a medal after this whole thing, even if we don't like necessarily what he was doing in the movie.
Yeah.
So
yeah, let us know in the comment section below what you guys think of the latest on Fantastic Four movie and the test screenings, what they've said about Galactus, what they've said about Fantastic Four themselves, the group. It's going to be interesting. It's certainly exciting to see what this Fantastic Four will look like. I'm more excited to see Galactus, and him talking. I can just picture it in my mind how spectacular this is going to look. That's the hope. Because they really haven't showed us much. But what we see for this movie is certainly something to look forward to. The presence of Galactus. I want to see people going crazy, going out of their minds. Because seeing the Celestial up in, their psychiatrists should be getting paid right now. They should have mad money with people. They just don't have room for nobody. But we'll see. Fantastic Four, a few months away, and I'll be there. I'm sure most of you who watch this show will be there to see what this is going to be like. And I'm more interested in Galactus, man. Silver Surfer, man. That's probably the most upsetting part. That's the part I think for me, when I see it on screen, I'm going to be checked out. I'll be looking, but I'm not going to, there's nothing I think right now I feel that her character, the Silver Surfer's character, is going to do that's going to impress me. I'm more interested in seeing Norman Rad, man. And if they ever do a Silver Surfer movie, it should be his origin. Or
I agree.
There's a lot of different ways that they can go. Well, not a lot, but a couple of ways that they can attempt to tell his story. But we shall see what this movie brings in terms of the Silver Surfer. We're definitely getting excited for Galactus. The Fantastic Four, I'm just curious to see what MCU did with it. So yeah, let us know in the comment section below what you guys think. Hit that like and subscribe, share with your friends, and we'll see you next time on the Nerd Gen Report.